The use of items is a common feature in many interactive narratives, helping to add layers of complexity to the story. For this reason, TilBuci has a tool called Inventory that allows the management of both key items and consumables. In this video, we will explore this feature. Let's start by creating a scene called Battle Tutorial with a visual style similar to keyframe 6 of the first chat scene, where the robot appears in the right corner. Let's create a new media collection containing the text from this scene, which will be the string variables $B tutorial 01 to $B tutorial 14. Now, let's assign the collection of tutorial paragraphs to the text instance in our scene, remove the additional instance that was created, and confirm that the next button action takes us to the next keyframe in the scene. We'll add keyframes to our scene until we have 7 in total, assigning each one the corresponding asset in the text instance. The 7th paragraph of the text will invite the player to test the card battle system against the black ships, as we did in our previous test. To do this, we will change the action of the next button so that, instead of jumping to the next keyframe, it starts the battle exactly the same way we did in our test. When the battle is finished, we will set the action to load the next keyframe. Let's create the 8th keyframe and change the paragraph, which will congratulate them on the victory. Remember that this is the only possible outcome in a battle against black ships. The text of this 8th paragraph invites the player to face a white ship. Considering the current statistics, the player will always lose this battle. Let's adjust the action of the next button accordingly. Now let's add the 9th keyframe, whose text will talk about the defeat, and change the action of the next button so that it loads the next keyframe. Then, we create the 10th keyframe, which will bring text explaining to the player the possibility of using items. The 11th paragraph talks about a button that appeared in the upper corner of the screen. Let's add it to our keyframe. Our idea is that this button will show the player an inventory screen from which they can select an item. Item management is one of the narrative features that TilBuci offers to enhance your stories. To use it, we'll need to make some configurations. In the narrative menu, click on Inventory. First, let's check the Settings tab. Here, we adjust the inventory screen display. The first setting is the type of inventory to be used. TilBuci can manage both key items, those that the player possesses to unlock parts of the story, and consumable items, which are spent by the player to activate their actions. You can use both in your creation or choose only one of the types. Next, we can set the graphics to be used as the background for the inventory display, as well as the button to close it. For more details on the formats of these graphics, check the section on inventory in the document, TilBuci Scripting Actions, in the chapter on narratives. Finally, we can assign a sound to the use of items. We'll see more about sounds in the future, and also adjust the font used to display the quantities of consumable items. For item names, consider including the text in their own images, remembering the techniques we've already seen for loading pictures according to the language used. After adjusting the inventory display properties, let's register an item. The idea is for it to be an item that will boost the player's card attributes, allowing them to defeat the white ship. We start by giving the item an identifier. Let's call it tutorial. Next, we set the image. Notice that we included the item's name in the image itself, and that we use the folder path feature so that the version with the text in the correct language is loaded. Now, it's time to set what this item will do when used. You can include any actions to perform when an item is activated. To change the attributes of the player's cards, look for the action Set Modifiers for Player Card Attributes in the Narrative group. Note that there is a similar action for the opponent's cards. As parameters for these actions, first we have the number of the attribute to be changed. In our case, 1 is for red, 2 is for green, and 3 is for blue. Note that the change is applied to all the players' or opponent's cards, not just one specific card. The second parameter is a fixed gain or reduction. This number will be added to the value set on each card. The third parameter is a random gain. Each time the attribute is used in battle, a number between 0 and the 1 indicated here is added to the attribute value. The fourth parameter works the same way, but subtracting from the attribute value. For example, the card of our green ship has the value 1 for the attribute red. Setting 10 as the fixed gain will make the attribute value 11. If we set 2 as the random gain, the value for red during battle will be chosen between 11 and 13. Setting 2 as the random reduction will make the final value between 9 and 13. Let's set the same modifiers for the green and blue attributes, which will cause the card used by the player, no matter what it is, to always beat the white card, since in that card all the attribute values are 6. Following the text of our tutorial on the battle, we want that as soon as the player uses the item, the inventory screen disappears and they are taken to the next keyframe of the scene, which will invite them to face the white ship once more. We will add actions for this to our item. Next, we click on Set Item to include it in the list of available items, and finally, click on Save Inventory Items. The text in this keyframe asks the player to click the button that appeared in the upper corner to open the inventory. So, let's assign a trigger action to this instance. First, we need to add the item to the player's inventory. To do this, in the Narrative group, look for the action Add a Consumable Item to Inventory. Note that there is a similar action for adding key items. This action requires 2 parameters. First, the item identifier, tutorial in our case. Second, the quantity to be added. The TilBuci inventory system can track up to 4 key items and 8 consumable items and their quantities. Check the TilBuci Scripting Actions manual for more information on how to handle player items. Next, still from the Narrative group, select Show Inventory. This is an action that does not require parameters, but it has a when completed event that indicates actions to be performed when the inventory is closed, either by an item action, like the one we just created, or by the player clicking the Close Inventory button. We will not use this event in this case. Let's add the 12th keyframe to our scene and assign the correct paragraph to the text. Now, return to keyframe 11 and remove the Next button. This forces the player to follow the tutorial flow. They will only proceed to keyframe 12 when using the indicated item. Back at keyframe 12, let's change the action of the Next button to start the battle against the white ship again. Since the player's card attributes have been changed, the only possible outcome is now victory. Therefore, let's add the advancement to the next keyframe, to the victory actions in the battle. Finally, let's add the last two keyframes for the scene, adjusting their text. The next button action in the last keyframe will be left blank for now, as we haven't yet created the scene it will take the player to. Now, let's test our scene, but first, return to the first keyframe, access the scene properties, and check the static scene options so that the keyframes are not played automatically. To test, remember to check if, in the test actions, the software is loading the text file to replace the variables indicated in the paragraphs and that the variables $ship1 and $ship2, which indicate the cards to be used by the player, are defined. In this video, we learned a bit about inventory management in TilBuci, as well as ways to adjust card attributes to enhance the battle experience. For more information on these features, consult the TilBuci Scripting Actions manual.